All right, folks. I'm joined today by my client, Niall, and this is a really, really great story to share with you all because Niall was on the podcast back in 2020 and he got some phenomenal results coming into the program. But he came back into the program again at the start of this year and he's just absolutely knocked it out of the park. So I think this is a super important story to share because he was in a very, very challenging position with his back injury and now it is in a much different place. So, Niall, thanks for jumping on today and taking time out of your busy schedule, mate. Do you want to tell people a bit about yourself, like how old you are, and maybe
Sure.
tapping into where you were back in 2020?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, Connor. Yeah, I'm 36 years old. Played sport all through my younger days up until I was about 30. Stopped playing rugby when I was about 30. But had a lot of niggles, a lot of injuries over the years, and one of my major issues was always my back, my lower back. So back during COVID, I went through an extremely bad spell with back problems where, a lot of spasming and wasn't able to walk, could barely get out of bed, was in a really, really bad situation. So and that's when, I first started the program with you back then, Connor, and, we started very easy just from walking was our main thing and walking and flexibility and moving through that. And, in the space of the program in a couple of months, saw massive changes, obviously big changes from a movement perspective, but I think I even got back running and everything as well, pain free, back in that period. Then I kind of did my own thing for a year or two, and then I think it was the end of last year, I was kind of hitting a bit of a slump again from a motivation perspective, uh, and got in touch with you again. So kind of give me that kick I needed, and have a bit of accountability to have a program to follow, and also have those kind of goals in mind from my back perspective as well, and to continue to progress there. So started the program with you, and it's been really, really good. Seen massive changes and massive improvements in my back, and as I mentioned before, I'm able to deadlift now, and I'm also deadlifting 155 is now my one rep max on the deadlift. So I suppose in the space of 3 years, gone from not being able to walk without any pain or having back spasms to being able to deadlift pain free, and the goal is to hopefully get 180 kg in the next couple of months. So yeah, massive night and day, I think, from where I started 3 years ago. So definitely been life changing to a degree. I think even I remember mentioning to you when I started first, it was mood wise, it was completely down. Very kind of negative feelings around everything because being so used to being able to play sports and do things and be having that freedom of movement and everything, and then from a back pain perspective or a back injury perspective, it's extremely debilitating. So yeah, it was in a pretty bad spot, and especially with COVID and everything as well. But I think working with you and going through the program and small incremental steps, they seem like very little at the time, but I think over time, as you say, even if we do something small, it all adds and builds up. I'm kind of
Yeah,
testament to that now. I think that I can
yeah,
that I've gotten to where I am.
totally, man. And like, me and I know each other from growing up. So like he was always, super active, best on the team, all this type of stuff. So really, really difficult from a psychological standpoint to be
Yeah.
basically always bulletproof and then in a really bad way. Um, like when you were at your worst point, I remember you were saying you were taking painkillers for pain, struggling to even do
Mm.
your job, even though you're working remotely. What were you skeptical about? Like, because it was going on for quite some time. So were you worried about stuff just like this was just the way things were going to go long term?
I suppose, well, yeah, at one point, I suppose I was thinking, how do I fix this? How do I get out of this? Because I had gone to, doctors in the past. I had gone to physios, went to specialists, got MRIs and everything on my back. Got lots of different views on it, and no one could really give me that definitive. Okay, this is what you need to do to get to where you want to get to. So I think a lot of times there is lots of different inputs and different opinions, I suppose, on back pain. But I think mine just came down to uh, you know strengthening it basically, as in using it more. I think it was definitely that mindset when back pain. I was like, oh, the less I do, the better chance it will get better. Or as I said to you before, I stayed away from doing squats and deadlifts for a long, long time because I had a bad back or my back was sore. So counterproductive. I think obviously I've figured that out now that, the less you do of those types of exercises, the more issues you're going to have. So yeah, there was definitely times, all right, where I kind of felt, is this going to continue to get worse? Is this going to, like, where does it stop? Will I be able to do normal stuff again? As I said, I was only 34 at that stage, 33, 34. I was thinking, if I'm like this now in my mid-30s, what am I going to be like in 10, 15 years time? But
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of negative thoughts go through your head in those periods, and it can be, quite a lonely place at times as well, because you're kind of you're experiencing it, and even if you have people around you or you tell people what it feels like, if they can't relate to it, it's quite a difficult situation to be in, I think. So yeah, it was a tough period, but at least getting on the program and having that clear path and that progression, kind of give you a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. And then as you progress through the program, just seeing the improvements, seeing the pain diminishing, not having to take painkillers anymore, and then just like being able to increase the movement and stuff like that. So I think that's where you kind of start seeing the rewards, and you start feeling your confidence growing in your body's ability again. So yeah, it wasn't easy and it wasn't short. It was a long process, but I think if you look at it as a long term, I feel like now I'm probably in the best shape I've been in 15 years, maybe. I've been since I'm early 20s, so which is great.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. It's also like I'm very happy that you noted that point about like when you have an injury, in particular back pain, you kind of want to just avoid stuff because a lot of it is just you try something, you hurt yourself. So then the response you get is, well, doing activity causes pain, so not doing activity makes sense. And it does to a large extent, but as you said, you get weaker, then you get more compromised, then you become higher injury risk, and you're in this really frustrating cycle. So I'm glad that you touched on that. And I just I guess I wanted to bring you on to talk about your progress now. So we've kind of set the stage of where you were 2020, came back in. Maybe tell us where you were in December then of last year when you decided to join the program again.
Yeah, so I suppose prior to December and the months running up to that, I kind of really hit a slump, and from a motivation perspective, and not being able to motivate myself to get into the gym, and finding excuses not to do anything. And I could feel and see a difference in my body. I could feel like muscle mass strength was really going down. 6 months prior to that, I was in a really good routine, going to the gym 5-6 days a week. So I knew I could do it, and I know I enjoy going to the gym, but it was just that kind of kick that I needed, that kind of push in the right direction. So that's kind of where I started off with, I suppose, and why I signed up for the program was just to kind of get that accountability, get a bit more structure on my training, have a program to follow, see progression, have the check-ins and everything like that. So it's worked brilliantly. It's exactly what I needed to get me back into that routine. And I'm back in the mindset now where I kind of feel if I miss a session or 2 sessions a week, it kind of is like, I'm missing out on getting back in and getting stronger, progressing, and trying to do the muscle ups, doing muscle ups, or any of those kind of skill based stuff as well. So very much a mindset switch, I think, which has been a big thing. And just kind of getting my my love for training back again, I think, has been a big change in the last 6 months.
Awesome, man. Yeah, so you're back into a routine, you're enjoying your training. What else, like what other breakthroughs have you had since joining the program?
Yeah, I think definitely from a body composition point of view, as I said, before I started, I could notice that quite a difference in my strength, my muscle mass, my shape. I think we've touched on it a few times in our checkups over the last summer months, which was something I wanted to focus on a little bit more, just kind of leaning up a little bit, but also still being able to put on a bit of muscle. So I've noticed a massive change in the positive direction from that point of view. Definitely quite a lot leaner now than I was, but also still have definitely a lot more muscle mass than I previously had as well. I've put on about 3 kg through this program, but I look, a lot leaner than I did when I started this program. So, it's definitely good muscle weight that I put on, which is great. Also strength-wise, I think between doing the kind of the muscle up, the chin muscle or the ring muscle up, sorry, program, seeing a massive change in like arm strength, grip strength, forearm strength, shoulder strength. Seeing a massive change, even visually from those perspectives. And then also,
Did you get
we
any
obviously focus.
specific comments about your forearms?
Maybe one, yeah. We've been told to look like Popeye. As the last couple of months, things have changed a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Even just noticing even like I think the challenge of those different workouts has been really, really good. I would have never done anything much like that before. I used to do pull-ups and things like that, but I think this particular program with the ring muscle up as a focus, it works a lot in that, as you say, grip strength, forearms, a lot of that upper body, but we also done a lot of the lower body work and focus as well. So obviously massive, increase in my deadlift, obviously. My RDLs have gone up massively as well. I can easily do 3 sets of 8 at 70, 75 kg now in RDLs, where before I would have not even looked at that from even a bar on its own. I would not have done an RDL because I would have been afraid I'd hurt my back or do something like that. So so I think that's definitely the 3 big changes that I've seen, over the course of that. But obviously it started with just getting that kick that I needed to get back into my routine and having the motivation, and then having, a goal in place, knowing what I was working towards and knowing what I wanted to try to get to, and just kind of kept on chipping away at that and every week. And challenging myself. I think that's the great thing that I really enjoyed about the ring work, is that it's extremely challenging. Is in all you need is a pair of rings. I went down to my local park at the weekend and did a workout in the sun in Ireland, which was nice. But yeah, it's super challenging, and then you can just continue to add on more complexity and more steps to it, and continue to make it challenging, which I think is really cool and really enjoyable as well.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, mate. And yeah, rings in the sun is like you can't beat that, especially in Ireland. Like
Yeah,
that's a real treat.
definitely.
Awesome, mate. So I think one thing I'd actually like to touch on is now, you're 80, high 80s body weight. So you're getting up to a double body weight deadlift. So how is that physical ability now? You've built a huge amount of strength and I guess confidence through the area that was extremely compromised, your lower back. How has that affected you from like a mindset point of view, how you're feeling long term about the injury versus before? Maybe your back wasn't as bad, but you were also kind of in a very avoidant manner with specific exercises.
Yeah, I think it's just given me the confidence to do a lot more and not have that at the front of my mind, my lower back issues in the past. It's not really something that I think about as being, it isn't an issue anymore, obviously, but it's not something that I would fear or have a worry about anymore, as this potentially could flare up, or this could potentially, stop me from doing something. Whereas in the past, I would have always had that as my first thought when I was doing, an activity or doing an exercise, and like, oh, could this potentially hurt my back, or should I do this or should I not? Whereas now that question doesn't come into my head anymore. I'll just do whatever I want to do because I know my back is not going to be my limiting factor anymore. It's not going to hold me back from doing any different activities that I may want to do, if it's climbing a mountain or surfing or paddleboarding or something like that. I now feel confident in the strength of my body strength that I can do these things. I think it's getting more and more important as well. Mid-30s now, and obviously every year you get older, it's going to be even more important to have that kind of resilience in your body and have that good base and strength to be able to do these different things. So yeah, that's, I think, definitely how it's changed from that perspective. I don't fear my back, spasming, or my back, putting out my back, or being stuck in bed for 2 days after doing a certain exercise. Because even I would say maybe a year and a half ago, if I played tag rugby, I knew the next day my back would be very, very sore, very, very tight. I probably might have to uh, get help getting out of bed. But now that isn't a concern of
Okay.
mine anymore. It's kind of like I don't even think about it. That doesn't come into my head as being a possibility or as being a potential issue. So that's one less thing to worry about then as well. I suppose that was it's obviously pretty taxing on your mind and your mental state when you're constantly kind of thinking, okay, can I do this thing or should I do this thing? Or, oh, if I do this now, I know I'll be in a bad way tomorrow or I know I'll suffer tomorrow. So yeah, it's been a massive, massive change.
Yeah, man, that's huge. So like a year and a half ago, you do tag rugby, you're going to be pretty crippled the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel it all over. Like not even just my lower back, but like down my glutes, my hip flexors, groins, just everything was just like tight and just sore. And like, I think obviously I still have a bit of tightness in my muscles there, but I think all the strength work I've done has really balanced out a lot of the tightness that it did have around all of that area. Yeah, and it's such a vast improvement and change from where I have been, so it's brilliant.
Yeah, amazing. And now you're playing tag rugby. Is it twice a week?
Twice a week now, yeah. So doing tag twice a week and gym at least 3 or 4 times a week. I was playing a bit of five-a-side soccer, but I sprained my ankle, so I might stay away from that one for a while. For fear of doing it again.
Nice, man. Yeah, that's a huge change, man. So like I guess like how have these results impacted you personally, and then how do you see them impacting you like in the future from a long-term perspective?
Yeah, I think personally, it's just like it's obviously, as I said, from a mental point of view, it's taken a weight off. It's taken a worry away from me. It's given me a lot more confidence. I feel more confident in my body now as well, compared to what I did, in the past, 6, 9 months ago. Which is a big thing, I think, when you kind of feel a bit more confident in your body, kind of walk around with your head held a little bit higher. So yeah, it's just given me a lot more confidence to do things that I maybe wouldn't have done a few years ago or wasn't able to do a few years ago. So I think that's like, yeah, the big change from a personal point of view at the moment. Then kind of looking more long term, I've seen now what my body is capable of doing, and I kind of want to continue to push it and to build on it, and potentially try different things or different movements or different sports or activities and things like that. And um, like I like trying different things and kind of exploring and going on adventures and things like that. So I want to kind of maybe do a little bit more of that. But as I said, my goal from a gym perspective is get a ring muscle up and also hit a 200 kg deadlift is my big goal probably for maybe the end of this year. Let's see. But yeah, that's where I want to
Dude,
get to.
I love it, man. I love it. What do you think you would have said to someone if they're like, you're going to be aiming to do a 200 kilo deadlift in
Yeah.
2020? You would have
I
thought they're
hope.
crazy, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, what's a deadlift?
Yeah. Oh man,
Yeah, I
I love
couldn't
it.
even tie my shoelaces, I think, at that stage. So it would have been, yeah,
Cool,
a
man.
million,
Yeah.
million, million years ago.
Yeah, mate. No, super exciting. And I think the big thing is like it sounds like there's just much more freedom of,
Mm,
what you can do. You're excited to try new things for your future, and there's no limitations or like anxieties about, oh, I'm going to be broken up tomorrow, or I'm going to
yeah,
be in bed. I'm not going to be able to get out of bed if I do this thing that I'm, interested in doing, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, it's just
Awesome.
giving that much freedom. Yeah, yeah, and as I said, big mindset change, but also a big weight off your mind as well. From a day-to-day perspective. So, yeah, it's been a big benefit and a big improvement. So it's been great.
Amazing, man. Who would you recommend the program for?
I think definitely anyone who has, those niggles or even, has more long-term injuries or pain, which you know, they've been trying to get rid of, they've tried lots of different things, and it's just not going away. Because I was the same. As I said, my back was one issue, but I also had shoulder problems. I got shoulder surgery when I was quite young, and I've always had quite a bit of you know, mobility issue with that. And you know, I think anyone that has kind of those issues that just won't go away, even if it's just a little niggle and, you know, just persistent, but it's annoying, and you can still get through your day, but at the same stage, it's holding you back a little bit, or, you know, at the back of your mind. I think, you know, this program has been very, very good just to build a very, very solid foundation and start from the very bottom, you know, and keep on doing small increments every week, but at the same stage, making a massive difference and a massive change. So, yeah, I think definitely from that perspective, anyone with those type of longer term injuries, or, you know, if you want to try something different, you know, I think I've never used gymnastic rings before, and I absolutely love them. I think they're great, you know. So I don't think if I didn't do this program, I don't think I ever would have bought them or ever would have used them. So, you know, it's kind of a new skill I've developed and something different and a different challenge. So, yeah, I think anyone who wants to try a little bit different, not your normal gym program that you see a lot of people doing, I think this is definitely one for you, because the gym I go to, I haven't seen anyone else using rings there in the 6 months I'm going, and the only one that ever uses them. So, you know, you might get a few unusual looks from people, but I think it's just nice to try something different.
For sure, man. Amazing, bro. Super, super. Just really appreciate you sharing. And the story I always tell people now who are in that initial phase of injury. So, yeah, really appreciate you sharing your story, man. And super excited to see what is ahead with your goals going forwards.
Definitely.